Mr. President, Vice President, special guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Treasury Department. Thank you, Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, on behalf of our employees and families, for the enormous support you've given us, especially our law enforcement people since the tragedy in Oklahoma City. Let me tell our first-time guests a little something of the history of this building. Treasury has been located on this site since 1800. It has a long and proud history. The British burned the building in 1814, the beginning of our special relations. It was rebuilt, and the employees burned the building in 1833. That was before present management. The current building has been in use since the Civil War. The first step of reinventing government. This room, we are in the cast room where the government used to transact its financial business. Mr. President, Mr. Vice President, I want you to know that the 5 months I have been here, I have been proud to work with a truly remarkable, capable, and dedicated group of people, the people of Treasury. After 26 years in the private sector, I can say I have been enormously impressed with the people that I've had the opportunity to work with. They exemplify what government service should be all about. Moreover, at Treasury, reinvention and customer service are becoming internalized and an integral part of our culture throughout the ranks. You can see that kind of commitment to customer service and change in the new IRS program, which allows taxpayers to file their 1040 EZ form information on a touch-tone telephone. It's simple, it's easy, it's up and running in 12 states. Next year, it's going nationwide. Customer service is a major element of reinvention. Every Treasury Bureau now has a published customer service plan. We're reducing regulations by 22% so far. We're streamlining. Treasury has come down by a net of nearly 4,700 positions in 2 years. We reformed our procurement process, made use of purchase cards, and expanded the use of electronic commerce. We are proud to have earned one of the Vice President's Member Awards for our procurement program. At Treasury, we promise better government, and we are delivering. Today, we are taking the next step. We have 7 major initiatives in the second phase of Treasury reinvention, each aimed at providing better service to our customers, and making it easier for individuals and small businesses to deal with the government on Treasury-related issues. The President will talk in detail about the initiatives we're highlighting today. I would like to mention the others because over time they too will make an important difference, saving taxpayers and small businesses time, trouble, and money. Those 5 initiatives are streamlining our field services, better coordinating our operations with other agencies that operate at our borders, improving debt collection, working on cards that provide electronic access to government benefits, and relentlessly looking for ways to operate more efficiently and reduce our budget. For years, in large measure, the President said they would reform government but produce only reports. It's producing results. A key reason is the commitment of the Vice President to translate reinvention from plans to action, as we at Treasury are doing today. He is in very large measure responsible for the new way we do business, not just for Treasury, but throughout the government. I am pleased now to introduce the Vice President, Al Gore. Vice President.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. I love the acoustics in this room when it makes it sound even more enthusiastic. But thank you very much for your warm welcome. And Secretary Rubin, thank you for your leadership of this department and for your outstanding work on reinventing government. The President relies on you for so many things, and the country is now seeing you redeem the promise of reinvention here in the Treasury Department, and we really appreciate it very much. I'd like to thank all of your reinvention team gathered here. I won't call them all out by name, but they've done an outstanding job. And since the Memorandum of Understanding the President will sign or will announce in a few moments involves other agencies, I want to thank the other reinvention teams that have been involved also. I want to thank Social Security Commissioner Shirley Chater, who is here, and IRS Commissioner Peggy Richardson, who's worked so hard on this, Deputy Secretary of the Department of Labor, Tom Glenn, also the head of the Small Business Administration, Phil Lader. We're looking forward to the conference, and Treasurer Mary Ellen Withrow, and there are a lot of others that I ought to single out, and I hope they'll all forgive me for not doing so. But I also want to thank our reinvention team in the White House, Elaine Kmark with the National Performance Review, and Sally Katzen with OMB, and there are others here, and you all know who you are, and thank you very, very much. I'm going to introduce Paul Condid in just a moment, and he will present the President. But while I'm acknowledging the people in this room, I would like, Mr. President, to also acknowledge some of the people who work for this department but who are not in this room today, the men and women of the Customs Service who, along with the Drug Enforcement Administration, just participated in Operation Cornerstone, a drug bust that ended in the arrest of 59 individuals who worked for the Cali cocaine cartel. And so I'd like to say on behalf of the President and everybody in this country, to all of that team, thank you for your continuing courage in the war on drugs. Lots of times, many events will occur at the same time other news is happening, like the rescue of the pilot, which was so wonderful. But I think that we really should celebrate the success of this Customs DEA team and others. They've done a great job. Now, at the beginning of this administration, President Clinton asked me to come into the Oval Office, and he said, "Al, we have got to figure out a way to reinvent the whole way the government operates." Some of you may know that when we were running in 1992, we put out a book of kind of a blueprint of what the President felt would be the best approach to the government, and we talked about it in that book. But right away, he wanted to emphasize it and to really push hard on it. And he asked me to head up this National Performance Review and the whole effort to reinvent government. And a year later, we put out our first report. And the subtitle of that report was Creating a Government That Works Better and Costs Less. In the past 2 years, we've made great progress on both of those fronts. We have cut the deficit in half, the one we inherited, and we have been reducing the government to 100,000 already. It'll be at its smallest size since President Kennedy's administration. But making government cost less was only one of the two goals that the President outlined. We also have to make it work better. That means putting customers first, cutting out red tape, empowering the people who actually do the work where the rubber meets the road. We're getting rid of management practices and structures that might have been just right for the Industrial Revolution, but we're bringing them up to date for the information age. And in doing that, we're taking lessons from the best-run businesses in America. Now, the only way for a business to thrive is to pay attention to its customers. Successful businesses not only create products that customers want, they're careful to design their services to be convenient for their customers. And that's so basic to the success of any business that the customers kind of take it for granted. And I want to give you an example. Paul Condid, who I'm going to introduce in just a moment, runs Texas Equipment, one of the nation's most successful dealers of farm implements. They sell and service things like John Deere tractors and bush hog shredders and KMC peanut harvesting equipment and quite a lot of other farm equipment. When a customer comes into one of Texas Equipment's stores, he or she finds that things are arranged for his convenience. Let's suppose he wants to buy a tractor or a shredder and a peanut harvester. We'll try to conjure up as many customers for you as we can during this event, Paul. Anyway, if the customer wants one of everything, let's say he wants all three of those items, the friendly sales representative at Texas Equipment will take care of all of it quite conveniently. No problems, no extra hassle. And if the customer wants to arrange financing, I'm sure that can be handled quite conveniently too, because everything is done for the convenience of the customer wherever that's possible. And every transaction with a customer is looked upon as an opportunity to get more customers and to learn how to improve the way the business attracts customers and makes a profit. Now, suppose for a moment that it was not Paul Condid, private businessman running Texas Equipment. Let's suppose that it was the Federal Department of Farm Equipment. The way government agencies design their services, or at least the way they did it in yesterday's government, wasn't for the convenience of the customer, it was for the convenience of the government. I guarantee you. A customer of the Department of Farm Equipment would have to wait in line at the tractor window to fill out the necessary application forms. And if he also needed a shredder, well, the clerk at the tractor window couldn't help him with that. He'd have to stand in line again over at the shredder window, or the bush hog bureau. There he would have to fill out another application form, and he'd probably have to give a lot of the same information all over again. Now, all of this would be very convenient for the government, but it would be very inconvenient and time-consuming and very expensive for that customer. Well, Texas Equipment Incorporated wouldn't be in business very long if they treated their customers that way. And there is no reason why Americans should have to tolerate that kind of approach from their government either. The American people who deal with government should be treated just as well and just as efficiently as a customer is treated going into a private business. That's why the reinvented government of tomorrow is redesigning its services for the convenience of the customer. Now, let me give you one example from Treasury Department's customs service. In Seattle, Washington, shippers used to have to line up at several government windows to get their cargo cleared into the country. First, they would fill out a stack of forms for the Customs Service. Then they would fill out another stack of forms for the Agriculture Department, giving most of the same information voluminously over again. And for some kinds of cargoes, there were even more agencies and more forms, and sometimes it took literally days and days to get through it all. But the federal employees in Seattle got the government's act together. When President Clinton made it clear that we were looking for ideas from the people right on the front lines and that they were empowered by heads of departments who were saying, come on, let's do it the way it should be done, they really had great ideas. They agreed among themselves on what information they needed, and they arranged for the shippers to provide the information one time, and that's it. Now, ships sailing into Seattle transmit information on their cargo before they even reach port, and all the agencies that need the information share it. And shipments clear port in minutes now instead of days. Well, President Clinton is here today to unveil more examples of the way tomorrow's government is getting its act together and providing better service. The changes he will announce have three things in common with the story I just told you about Seattle. First, they're about separate agencies working together for the convenience of their customers. Second, these ideas and initiatives the President will announce come from the energy and creativity of federal employees and from their desire to provide world-class customer service. And third, These initiatives are based on the intelligent use of modern information technology. Again, the team that has done this is due congratulations. They've worked extremely hard, and of all the reinvention work going on around the departments and agencies, this is one that really stands out. But before we hear President Clinton's news, I want to introduce Paul Condid. I started on that. He's a farmer as well as a business owner and a family man from Gaines County, Texas. His business, Texas Equipment Company, has 58 employees in 3 locations with sales of more than $20 million per year. Paul, I want to thank you for coming all the way from Seminole, Texas to join us here today. And I'd like to ask you to present the President and in the process tell us what you have to put up with and how the government could make things more convenient for you and other business owners. Paul Condid, ladies.
Well, first of all, I'm assuming that all the people with the cameras and all of this are with the press or something that gets the news out. I just wonder in the morning if or tonight that they'll hear in Waco, Texas, or LA, Oregon, or wherever it's at, that the deficit has been cut 50%. Now, I have not ever heard that. I also wonder if the news media will get this out about what we're doing today. Because I live in rural America. I'm out there with the good old boys. But I'm out there with some boys that tote a pretty heavy pocketbook. They can do what they want to. I live in Texas. Is anybody else here from Texas? Well, if I say something, then I've got a little backup then, and somebody can fight them off on me. Well, I had a speech written here, but the Vice President has taken some of the glory out of me. But it's not that far anyway, because I was on my way to Wisconsin to service a lawnmower that I gave an old man that drove it across the United States last year. Now, Paul Harvey said yesterday, or day before yesterday morning, they're going to make a movie out of it. They're going to use Arnold Schwarzenegger for me. But anyway, it wasn't much out of the way. I was going anyway. We have a very successful business in the John Deere business in Seminole, Texas, and most of you, probably some of you New York people, don't know where that's at. I saw 3 tags in town the other day. We're a tourist trap. They were getting gas, getting out of town. But seriously, what I'm doing up here is I was appointed by the President to the White House Conference on Small Businesses. I've only been to one meeting. I got involved in this earlier this year. I've been to one meeting down in San Antonio. But it's one of the finest conferences that I think I've ever attended. And I worked around, and since they stacked the deck on me and wouldn't elect me down there, and I know it was crooked because I was the only one from Seminole there, and everybody else was from San Antonio, and I can't understand why I didn't get elected, but I didn't. It's all right, I'll get even now. Because I let the big man take care of me. But anyway. We do. For the people that really do not know the definition of what the government speaks as a small business, that's 500, has 500 employees or less, and does $17 million in sales or less. Now that's considered a small business in the United States. Now to a lot of people that's quite a bit of money, but in Texas that's kind of small. But everything's kind of small out there. Now, the small businesses. They employ 95% plus of all the people, of all of our working force in the United States. 95% of the people that work for a living work for what the government considers small businesses. To sum this up real quick, because I had a speech, it was 3 hours long, but I'm not going to go into that because I don't want y'all to know everything I know. Here's what my company does nearly every month, quarterly, annual. I have 2 girls, 2 women that do nothing but this. I don't know what it is. They got good job security, I can tell you that. But I've already violated it because last night I was going through it and it says, do not staple, and I already have. So what I'm telling you is, I don't know what all that is, but it does take me about $50,000 a year worth of employees to take care of it. And if we can streamline the paperwork, it will help my small business, everybody's small business. I guess I've told y'all everything.
Thank you. Thank you. This is great. Oh my God. We brought Paul Condid up here as a part of the Vice President and my continuing cultural education of Secretary Rubin. We found out that even though he's very brilliant, there are serious gaps in his knowledge. When I met him, he didn't know who Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, or Rod Stewart were. And he had never met a redneck in his life. We are correcting that. Part of our reinventing government. You know what Paul Condid was saying to me when the Vice President was talking? He said, Mr. President, this stuff is great, but you need to reinvent communications. It ain't getting out. He said, nobody knows anything about this. I said, well, you'd have to be here a while for me to explain it to you. The greatest compliment I have received since I have been president was when we were in Montana the other day, and I didn't get it directly. And you may have seen the press, I went out to a farm to talk about the agriculture because we have to rewrite the farm bill as we were trying to reduce spending. And I insisted that we go to a Republican farmer's farm and that we have equal numbers of Republicans and Democrats in the crowd. One of my staff members was standing next to one of these farmers, and we were talking about all this, and all this agriculture, and he asked the farmer, he said, well, what do you think about this? And the farmer looked at him and said, he ain't nothing like they make him out to be, is he? I thought that was another way. You learn to speak maybe in a way that people can understand if you spend more time on a John Deere tractor, and Paul Condid has. We thank him for being here. I also thank the Vice President for the incredible job he has done on all these projects, and I thank Secretary Rubin and Commissioner Chater, Commissioner Richardson, Deputy Secretary Glenn, and all the people who worked on this. We do have an obligation to communicate what we're doing, but we also have an obligation to do the right things and to stop doing the wrong things. And our SBA Director, Phil Later, is going to we're going to have this White House conference on small business next week. I'm very excited about it. I hope it is an opportunity to talk to the American people and to talk to the small business community about what we're trying to do. But I hope it's also a chance for us to continue to do more of the right things and to keep changing. The truth is that, as the Vice President said, I could have listened to that story all day, analogizing to what if the federal government was running a John Deere dealership. I wish I'd have thought of that myself. The truth is that one of our big problems is that almost everybody who works for the federal government is honest, hardworking, well-meaning, and really wants to serve. But we are trapped inside a system that there are some things we can't change. And one is we basically have guaranteed revenues and guaranteed customers. And that means that we change less quickly than the private sector that has neither. But if we don't change, then the voters eventually will try to find a way to get through the elected officials to the permanent government. And since, in a way, people's perceptions are not all that specific, even if they're generally accurate, we might wind up going from one extreme to the other. So what we tried to do when we got here was to prove that it was actually possible for the institutional government to change, something that most people simply didn't believe. Now, most people believed that politicians would come and go, but the government would go on forever. And interestingly enough, in the last several years, I have noticed politicians beginning to adopt the same rhetoric in an attempt to be popular with the people, so that people would be in control here for 7 or 8 years and still be cussing the government as if, what do you expect me to do? I'm just the president, or I'm just the Secretary of the Treasury, or, you know, what do you expect me to do? And in the course of that, I think that we have been less sensitive than we should have been, as I've said repeatedly, and I'm a guilty party, to treating federal employees like people. And we must never contribute to this atmosphere of resentment of the people who work for the federal government. Because most people who work for the federal government are like most people anyway. Given the choice between being productive or unproductive, most people would choose to be productive. Given the choice between being relevant or irrelevant, most people would gladly choose to be relevant. Given the choice between building and tearing down, most people would choose to build. And what we have tried to do with this National Performance Review, which the Vice President has doggedly pursued, and what we've tried to do, even though we couldn't get it out, and we knew there was probably never any way to make it a popular, big, headline-grabbing issue, is day by day, week by week, department by department, agency by agency, employee by employee, to chip away at the habits and institutional conduct of the federal government that is not good for America and not going to take us into the 21st century in good shape, and to flip it around so that our public institutions can do the public's business in a way that maintains the trust of the people who are paying the bill. And all of you who've been a part of that deserve a lot of credit for what you've done. And I just want to urge you to keep doing it. We'll keep trying to figure out how to get it out, to use Paul's expression. But the main thing we need to do is to keep doing what has been done. Some of this involves changing laws. You know, I recently signed the Paperwork Reduction Act. Last Congress, we passed the procurement reform, which the Vice President was able to popularize on the David Letterman show by breaking the ashtray. But that broken ashtray was a way of getting out the idea that we were wasting, at a minimum, hundreds of millions of dollars a year with antiquated procurement practices. The Paperwork Reduction Act, when Paul waves that around, it's a way of illustrating the burden that is on us to make sure that we are not asking people to spend their time, their money, and their resources on fooling with us if they don't have to, and if there is no public purpose served by it. Now, that is one of the things that seems to me that if you talk to anybody about what they really resent about our government, if they have any kind of success in life, they'll normally talk about regulation and paperwork even before taxes. And we are trying to do something about that. Small businesses and big businesses too have been screaming at us for years to do something about it, and we are trying to do it. Now, the Department of Treasury has taken the lead by spearheading the simplified tax and wage reporting system. Because of that, today we are announcing a plan that should lead to the elimination of the need to file W-2 forms in multiple places. You will only need to file once, and you will have a single point of contact for customer service. This will save time and hassle and about $1 billion a year, which is real money even up here, Paul. $1 billion a year. When we free people from the burden of paperwork so that they can create jobs, opportunities, services, and products for the American people, we have saved much more than that. In addition, I'm going to send legislation to Congress that will remove the legal barriers that keep federal and state agencies from working together in common sense ways to ease the paperwork burden on all taxpayers. If most taxpayers currently have to fill out both a state and a federal income tax form. Depending on where you live and work, you might also have to do a local income tax form. Most of the information on the state and city forms is simply a repeat of what's on the federal form. So with some teamwork and modernization of the tax system, the federal government is now going to create partnerships with state and city governments to eliminate the need for duplicate filings. Since we came into office, we have permitted 29 states to have systems in which taxpayers can satisfy both their federal and state personal income tax filing requirements with a single electronic transmission. More than 1.5 million returns were filed this way this year. Next year, 32 states are going to participate. You can imagine what will happen to the paperwork burden as more and more people file electronically one time, both state and federal. The IRS handles 2 billion pieces of paperwork a year. So we are going to reduce regulation. We are going to speed transmission. We're going to make it easier for the taxpayers. And as an extra added bonus to the Vice President, we're going to save 14 or 15 more forests by the turn of the century by reducing this level of paperwork. This is a big deal. Now what we have to do is make sure people know they can do it, and more people do it. We're going to clear away the barriers to full partnerships with state and local governments for employment as well as for personal tax information. We estimate that with a partnership with 20% of the states, by the year 2000, we can reduce the burden to taxpayers just on this item alone by $1.5 billion and save the government millions and millions of dollars in the process. I invite governors and mayors all across this country to join us in having businesses and taxpayers file their information just one time. This is the right way to fix the government. There is no need for 2 or more filings. We are prepared to do our part in a technical way and in a legal way to make it possible for taxpayers all across America to have fewer piles like this. This is the kind of service the American people are entitled to expect from a modernized tax system, and frankly, this is the kind of thing we're going to have to do to get the inordinate compliance costs with the taxation systems in America down. This is what reinventing government is all about. I want to again say to all of you who worked on this project, I appreciate it very much. We now have to sign a memorandum of understanding which requires all these various agencies to work together, and we're going to sign that, and then I'm going to ask Paul Condid to sign it as a witness to make sure that he'll have something to get out when he goes home to Seminole, Texas. So, Secretary Rubin, Deputy Labor Secretary Glenn, Commissioner Chater, Commissioner Richardson, please come up here and sign the Memorandum of Understanding. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
ahead when you get the chance.
You know what he said when I said he was going to sign as a witness? Where's the notary? Thanks, Shirley. Thanks. Thanks, Tom. Thank you. We're adjourned.
We are adjourned. If you would all hold your seats until the President and the Vice President leave, we would appreciate it. But as the President said, we are adjourned.